another couple down in Western Victoria doing pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're aware of another company in Victoria as well, doing it on a slightly smaller scale.
Yeah.
But not doing the marketing that we're doing with the beef itself. So you're running it as a commercial beef operation. If we can create more demand for the meat, then it guarantees the survival of the breed as a viable entity instead of just a pet.
Yeah.
When we first started sourcing cattle, it was fortuitous timing in that it was still drought and a lot of the animals were being offloaded because they weren't regarded as a serious beef operation.
Yeah.
But people had had a few head and they were out of feed, so they had to sell them. They had to either give them away or and so our timing, that when we were setting them up, the timing just happened to be quite good in that people were offloading at the same time. And since we bought about 65 cows.
Yeah.
We've lost a few to just old age since then. But since then there have been very few for sale, especially in the numbers that we require.
We're looking to top up our numbers, and they just weren't around.
Oh,
We
okay.
couldn't find any.
So you really have to be able to breed as well as use them for beef farming as well.
Yeah.
But these cows, another advantage of these cows, both breeds, they'll calve at 20 years old, which is extraordinary for beef cows.
Wow.
Yeah. Another good reason for going with heritage breeds.
Yeah. Okay, so on more of the meat being produced out of these breeds, have you noticed anything different about these particular breeds in the meat versus more traditional breeds like Angus and other different breeds? What is your perspective on that?
One of the bigger differences would be because they grow slowly, is that we're having a meat with a much finer grain.
Okay.
So, you don't have that sort of stringiness to the meat when it's cooked.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of very positive comment from my customers about that.
So in a typical, I suppose, production process, from calf being born to the meat actually going to your customers, can you tell me about, I suppose, the timeline and the process that all goes through from end to end?
Well, Ian can start that.
No, well, the calves, they stay with mum for anywhere 6 to 9 months. Then they're weaned and they're run together as a weaner mob. We've had up to 55 youngsters in our weaner mob.
Yeah.
So they all form their little groups and their little playmates together.
Like humans?
Yep, exactly. The cows, particularly the Highlands, and most Highland breeders will say this, they're an ancient breed. They have very strong hierarchies within the mob, within the cows. The bull's always boss. But you'll find that there's a structure, and it becomes very obvious out in the paddock, there's a structure within the mob of a boss cow and then several almost deputies, if you like. And then there's underlings who will always stand back. If you feed them hay, they'll always stand aside somewhere else. Because if they come in and take a bite, they'll be pushed out of the way.
Yeah.
And it's much more obvious in Highlands than I've ever struck with any other breed, and I've dealt with a lot of other breeds of cattle.
Okay.
And one of the interesting things about sourcing, when we were buying, we got some stock from the south coast, from the north coast, from up in New England, and from the central coast, and also from the southern highlands. So we were getting stock from all over the place in numbers of 10 to 15 head.
Yeah.
And each of those disparate groups had their own structures.
Yeah.
So when we put them all together, suddenly you've got structures within structures trying to happen.
Yeah.
And when we put them in the yards, we just had to put them in the yards and go away for an hour while they sorted themselves out. Because it was.
You don't want to be in the middle of that with the
mayhem.
horns flailing.
No.
We've never had a cow. We have once had a cow turn on us. She had the calf the day before, the night before, and it happened to be one of the days we had lined up to get them into the yards. And she got to about 50 metres from the yards and said, "Nah, I'm not going any further. Stay away." Left her alone, and that was it.
But that's once out of 5 years?
Yeah.
6
Well,
years?
6 years
now?
we've had them. Yeah.
6
And
years.
we deserved. I knew it was going to happen. I just was hoping to get her into the yards first. It was absolutely no surprise. Any cow would have done it a kilometre further earlier. But in the yards, when they're pushing and shoving each other, they're no threat to us unless you just happen to get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very interesting breed from that angle, that structure, that hierarchy within the mob. And,
Yeah.
they're quite different from that aspect.
It's interesting out in the paddock. I've noticed when Ian's taking the twine off the hay bale, and they're all in there trying to get their first mouthful off the bale. They're terribly careful to tip their head and not touch him with their horn.
Oh, isn't it? And that comes back to the breed about what you were saying about it's a much more gentler breed than
They are.
traditional. Is there any other, I suppose, characteristics or personalities about the breed that you love about it?
Not so much the personality, I guess. They're a real foraging sort of animal. They're ideal for this country because they will, as Manda said, that they'll poke around amongst the bracken and blackberry. And, blackberry is one of the scourges of this country. It's a real nightmare. But they'll poke around amongst it and forage around amongst it. They'll test fences. For that same reason, they'll poke around, and if there's something delicious over that side of the fence, it's just something in the way, and they'll reach over, they'll push through, they'll do anything. So the fences have to be fairly good for them. But they can be pushed a lot harder than some other breeds from that aspect. They'll thrive where a lot of other breeds will just stand at the fence and bellow at you.
Yeah, they convert feed well,
Yeah.
being an ancient breed.
And their appearance, we just like the look of them. They're a majestic breed. They really are.
Okay, so from the weaner herd, then they come into adult life, I assume?
They're together. We run them together as much as possible. They settle within that weaner mob, and they'll settle within their own age groups or hierarchies, or they've come in there as mates, etc. And they're just run together. And then when we draft off for killing, we bring the whole group in together.
We draft off every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take half a dozen animals out, and we'll pick the 4 best of those.
Yeah.
So by and large, because we're peeling out the bigger animals each time, we're actually taking a group that are getting on together.
Yeah.
And that's fairly important. From leaving the front gate to the abattoir, they have to be settled with each other. You can't have animals going on a truck and just fighting each other in a truck. That just destroys the meat quality.
Okay.
So as far as possible, you're taking a group that are comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And that's always, when we're drafting off, we'll take, if we want 4 animals, we might take 8 of the best out and then let the rest go.
Yeah.
And if one of those 8 is a bit nervous and a bit skittery, out it goes, back out with the main mob again. So you try and get animals that are compatible with each other, personalities that are compatible.
We put a lot of effort into that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important. You know, it's the end of their life, but it has to be good.
Non-stressful journey.
Yeah. It's all about reducing the stress on the animals.
Yeah.
We don't use dogs, we don't use electric prodders, none of that stuff. The transporter, the guy who comes to pick them up knows he leaves his electric prod in the truck. He cannot use it here.
Yeah.
But he also knows...
We use plastic waddies.
Yeah, we just use a piece of plastic pipe.
Yeah.
But he now knows the cattle as well, so all he's got to do is basically open the gates into his truck, walk around behind them and follow them on and close the gates. That's easy.
So the cattle are equally getting to know the person that's actually taking them onto the truck as well?
Not so much. He's only here to pick them up, but Manda's down there with them anyway when that happens.
Okay, yeah.
Very occasionally.
Actually, Phil tends to look after the gates. I actually put them down through the race.
Yeah.
Because, they have been handled by me every 3 weeks.
And the last step into the process.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, and if we had a few more paddocks on the place, you'd draft off your top 12, 15 animals and have them running together, so it's a much more concentrated a small group of mates that are travelling then each time. But just because of the structure of this property, we don't have that luxury at this stage anyway. It'd be nice to get there. But it's just one more step in just reducing the stresses and strains of...
Yeah. So roughly from a time perspective, from the moment that they're born as a calf into when they're taken to the abattoir and then produced into meat products, how long is their lifespan?
Usually about roughly 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between say 22 and 26 months, that sort of time scale.
Yeah.
A little bit shorter with the crossbreds, but yeah, usually around approximately 2 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll end on a note. Thank you very much for letting Stockman's come out to visit you, and thank you very much for your time to actually sit down and talk to us today.
No, it's a pleasure.
Fine.